The Panthers get some reinforcements back on Wednesday night and find a way to split the quick 2-game road trip in Denver and Utah. And it's official. The Panthers will be hosting the 2026 Winter Classic.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Thursday, January 9th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at Monoman12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. You could also follow the show account on Blue Sky at LOFLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydays who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. You can follow the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. So the Florida Panthers go into Utah. Yes, Utah for the first time ever in their franchise history, as the Utah Hockey Club has struggled at home throughout the season, and it continued on Wednesday night for them. The Panthers get some reinforcements in Aaron Ekblad and Nico Mikkola. Nico Mikkola missing the last 5 games. Aaron Ekblad missing the one for the Panthers. But the Panthers went back to their game, although they had a little bit of a period of time in the first period with not getting any shots on goal and struggling with their breakouts. They still find a way getting a score on the power play. One player got their goal drought, ended their goal drought, and the Panthers never trailed in this one as they found a way to win against the Utah Hockey Club by a final score of 4-1 with 2 empty netters at the end. Jesper Boqvist gets 2 goals on the night. And here to break this down and more on today's edition of the show, he is a returning guest here, the host of Locked On Syracuse, South Florida native and Panther fan, Jackson Holzer. Jackson, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Well, it's late, but you know what? It was a W, so it's good to be up right now.
Yep, as Scott Van Pelt likes to say, I am not tired yet, as whenever he hosts the midnight edition of Sports Center there. But yeah, like I said, for the Panthers in this one, I mean, at certain points, I mean, especially with, like I said, the Panthers, they struggled with their breakouts at the beginning of this game for the most part. I mean, there was one where Matthew Tkachuk cleared it down the middle, and then Utah had the puck in the Panthers zone for over a minute there. And then Matthew Tkachuk takes a little bit of a boneheaded penalty, but actually it was a tone-setting kind of penalty, honestly, for the Panthers. And then really for them, when it came to just the energy and getting, also trying to, maybe get used to a new bar in a place that they haven't been before. We saw how in the interview for between Jody Shelley of NHL and TNT and Paul Maurice, he spoke a lot about that part of the game, and then also the energy level on a team that they're not really familiar with. And let's go right into that, really, the best part of that interview, where he said, we got to find a way to hate them, which he was comparing rivalry games to out of conference games. So that really that was just one thing that had me rolling there for the night.
It's just another one of those classic Paul Maurice quotes right there. You can just put them up on the banner one day. You know what they should do with Paul Maurice is that they should retire his banner one day in the stadium. But instead of like having just Maurice with the standard number, it should just be Maurice with all of his classic sayings that he's had over the years. And you could just put that one on the banner because he's absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
He's absolutely right. It's now January 9th at the time you're watching or listening to this, but the game started on January 8th, okay? They're playing Utah. It's January. They've gone to the Stanley Cup 2 years in a row. It's the regular season. They're going to make the playoffs, barring something catastrophic. It's hard to get up for these games. So That's Paul Maurice just being honest. He's like, we got to find a way to like give us motivation to play. And well, it's Matthew Tkachuk. getting a little bit chippy in the first
Yeah.
period, taking a penalty, which it's not really a disciplined penalty, but at the end of the day, this is the kind of the time to take them.
Yeah.
Because in the playoffs, you don't want to be doing that. Playoffs, absolutely not. But regular season in early January, all right, fine. Because you know what? They killed it off. And overall, Armando, I don't know about you, but that first period, completely uneventful.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. I was trying to find something in my notes to write down. Nothing happened. And that's exactly how you want it. Lo and behold, because of a good period in the first, you come out in the second, you come out firing, you get a power play, and Reinhart finally in his office. Shout out Kevin Stenlund, by the way. You know, he got his championship ring. It's kind of funny because he knows the Panthers system. He knows what they're going to do, and
Yeah.
who can stop it?
Yeah. The Panthers getting that power play goal 105 into the second period, just as the NHL and TNT was interviewing Ryan Smith there. But also congratulations to Sam Reinhart, 67 power play goals as a Panther, now passing Scott Mellanby for second all time, first goal in 7 games, and only 14 behind Barkov, but Barkov happens to be on the same team. But at the rate that Sam Reinhart has been, who knows? That could be a little bit of a competition for the top. But also with the Panthers, I mean, you mentioned very not a lot to take from the first period, 4 shots against. But as we spoke about in our pre-record in our meeting right before recording, the 17 shots that the Panthers faced in the second period, I thought they were still very controlled. And I know a lot of people listening to this might not have stayed up and might have seen 17 shots and might have said, "Oh my God." But watching it and looking at the eye test for the Panthers, there wasn't there wasn't a lot of odd man rushes against for the Panthers neither. There was that one where Cooley had the between the legs spinorama around Nate Schmidt for them, but still it wasn't the Panthers out of structure there. And even in that period for the Panthers, there was almost 3 minutes of the Panthers forcing 3 icings, winning draws, and getting 3 line changes in a span like that for them. So I felt that the Panthers is like, okay, this is we're seeing the Panthers of okay, playoff structure type of hockey for them in this second period.
We are in agreement on that. I wrote down one big chance that Utah had in that second period. I don't know what the stats say as far as how many actual chances they had. But for my eye test from watching that second period, it was like a lot of empty calorie shots.
Yeah.
Every shot, it felt like Bob could see it. And it wasn't right in front of him, except for one attempt. There was about 6-ish minutes left in the period. And it was one of those weird dump-ins where Forsling kind of misplays it. He takes the man, but the puck gets left alone. Ekblad tries to kind of come in and support him. He misses the puck entirely. Then there's a cross-ice pass. And Bob comes up big to preserve the lead in that moment. But that was it.
Yeah.
And you can't even say that that's the Panthers getting out of their system. That's just you're misplaying a dump in, which is going to happen every once in a while. And I could live with that for one period. I guess the theme of the game overall is this was very much a Panthers hockey game.
Yeah.
It was very uneventful for Utah. There was not a lot of chances for them. The Panthers always seemed like they were one step ahead. And even when Utah cut it within 1, I don't think there was anyone in that building who actually felt like they were going to come back and win it.
Yeah, and then a silly penalty by Sam Bennett that resulted in that power play goal by Utah there. But really for the Panthers and getting going into the third period and with a lead as well. Now 17-0-0 on the season for the Panthers. When leading after 2 periods. But I mean, you think about low scoring games, the Panthers are very comfortable. And then when you see when we talk about that shoot in for the Utah Hockey Club and then Bob stopping it after which was on Lawson Krause for the Utah, Utah was out of their structure when Vladislav Kolyachonok broke his stick, and look what happens. You get the puck in deep, you zip the puck real quick, and then Jesper Boqvist finds a way to score, which a great feed by Carter Verhaeghe. Even though Carter Verhaeghe has struggled on the goal scoring front, he got a primary assist last week against to Matthew Tkachuk after he was in the penalty box for 12 minutes, broke out of a drought, and then gets this primary assist here. So we're seeing the little things that Carter Verhaeghe has done here and there, and he's on a pace for career highs in assists. So that I'm gonna try to look positively into Carter Verhaeghe's game and what he's done. And also, you mentioned Kevin Stenlund and knowing the system. How about drawing 2 penalties in that third period, which thankfully it wasn't knee on knee. The one that Nico Mikkola had, it was knee on thigh for them. Thank goodness for them. And also the other penalty that Sam Bennett threw that had on that slash, which was very just boneheaded for him. You notice that the guys that he went after, it wasn't any of his teammates that was on the Stanley Cup winning team.
Yeah, I found that a little bit interesting. I guess there's still some good blood there. And of course, when you get a championship ring, that cures everything. That first 6 minutes of the period was a masterclass. Mm-hmm. They obviously got the goal, which, we'll talk about later on, but that was a big goal from Boqvist, getting up 2-0. Then it just became a penalty fest.
Yeah.
That's what happened. Why did Utah get within 1? I'll tell you why. It wasn't because they were playing 5-on-5. They got 3 consecutive power plays. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's the one negative takeaway, which is you can't give an NHL team 3 consecutive chances. And by the way, they were all penalties. Mm-hmm. None of them I was like, man, that's a weak call. Like, you can't do that at this point. They were all like, yeah, that's a penalty. Yeah, you got to call that one. Even if it's the playoffs, I would still call them. But overall, that was it. They get their 1 power play goal, and I was like, all right. They ended it. There was not much to talk about afterwards.
Yeah, and then Panthers only getting 1 power play, and then they convert on it. So it's about taking the most of your chances, quality over quantity when it came to the shots for Utah in the second period, the amount of power play chances they had. So the Panthers made most of what they had there. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we are going to give our 3 stars of the game and also discuss the moment where we knew the game was won. We're going to discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. And I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite memories was attending a concert last year. The energy and excitement were unforgettable. Now, Game Time has made it easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. This feature filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Segment number 2 here on this Thursday, January 9th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. Here with Jackson Holzer of Locked On Syracuse, and South Florida native and Panther fan here to discuss more about this 4-1 win for the Florida Panthers over the Utah Hockey Club. All right, so 3 stars of the game. All right, number 3 star for me, I'm going to go with Matthew Tkachuk as my 3rd star. We talked about, yes, we're both in agreement in lockstep where reckless penalty, but it was a tone setter for the Panthers there. But also the fact that they went back to that bread and butter play on the power play, and then they get it down to the goal line to Tkachuk, gets it to Reinhart, boom, money. And this was about the time last year where they were going on their 8 straight games of getting a special teams goal, Sam Reinhart, that is, on both on the power play and shorthanded. So it's great. Just 365 days ago, we were talking about that big stretch. So and then the Tkachuk getting it to Luosterainen for the empty net goal there. So 2 points there for Matthew Tkachuk. Your 3rd star.
I will also agree with you on Matthew Tkachuk on this one. He had the 2 points. One of them, obviously, the primary assist on Reinhart. He also had an assist on one of the empty net goals. So a 2-point game for Matthew Tkachuk, you'll certainly take it. But you'll also take the antics as well. And that's Matthew Tkachuk for you. It wasn't necessarily the penalty so to speak, that set the tone. It was kind of the antics after the penalty that set the tone. And he just has a way of knowing what to get away with and what you can get away with and what you can't get away with. Because I don't know if he thinks about this, but it seems like he knows every time he's playing, okay, they already called a penalty on us. So I can do like a little bit more to get into my opponent's head because I'm going to dare the ref to call 2 penalties on us. Because how often do you see it in a hockey game where they'll call back-to-back penalties?
Yeah.
During the same sequence. It's rare, right? And for whatever reason, he knows it. So he just gets into your opponent's skin. And like Maurice said, we got to get them to hate us, or we got to find a way to hate them or whatever, so we can wake up for this game and try to get the 2 points that, let's be honest, they should be getting 2 points pretty much every single time they play Utah. No disrespect to Utah, but it's the Florida Panthers we're talking about here.
Yep.
And I thought he set the tone in this one.
Yeah, went after Jack McBain after the Bennett penalty as well, and then the frustrations continued for them. Even going after AJ Greer at the very end after the final whistle blew. But even Andre Tierney, he had a little bit of a funny quote. It said Jody Shelley told him the good luck, and he said, "Thanks, we're gonna need it." So both coaches were great quotes on the night. Number 2 star for me, Jesper Boqvist, 4 goals in the last 5 games. That empty net goal from him, 180 feet plus from his backhand for him. And also just incredible. I can't say any more great things about Jesper Boqvist on just how great he's been for the lineup. I remember just even in November when they had that series against the New Jersey Devils, the Panthers looked bad, but that Boqvist line, when he stepped up to the second line at the time, was outstanding, was the only one who had an impact. But then you see even stretches where he's going on a different line. In this example, the third line for the Panthers with Lundell and Verhaeghe. I know Verhaeghe, they ultimately switched the lines later in this game, but 2 goals on the night. And of course, the second one, the first one, ended up being the GWG for Jesper Boqvist. So I got to put him there, and just has come big in situations. We saw him come big in the Finland games as well. So it's just an unsung hero for the season. And this was another game where it was another one of Jesper Boqvist just showing out.
I agree with you on pretty much everything that you just said, except I don't think he was the second star. I think he was the number 1 star.
Okay.
So I'll go with my number 2 star being Sergei Bobrovsky. Look, they didn't have to call on him much, and that's a good thing. That's a credit to the defense and getting Mikola and Ekblad back. So the gang's all here, right? He saves 26 of 27. Not too many high danger chances for Utah, but when Utah had those high danger chances, and they had a few, Bob, for the most part, he made the saves. And I've talked to you so many times, Armando, about sometimes goalies got to make saves.
Yeah.
There's going to be breakdowns every single game. It's just going to happen. There's going to be a 2-on-1 here or there. You got to make a save. Bob made those saves with the exception of the 1 power play goal, which I can live with. All right, won a game. That's it. You can live with that. He had 2 sequences after giving up that goal that were very critical in the Panthers winning this game. Utah actually had a chance 15 seconds after they scored the tying goal, the goal to make it 2-1. They had a chance. Lawson Krause right in front of the net. Bob made the save.
Mm-hmm.
And then with around 2:30 left, right before Utah was going to pull the goalie, Forsling, who never gets beat, actually got beat by Lawson Krause to the net, but Bobrovsky, 1 step ahead of Krause, pokes it away, which I don't think is going to go in the stat sheet as a save. But to me, when you could make a big poke check like that, that's a save in my opinion. It saved a breakaway, essentially. So Sergei Bobrovsky, my 2nd star.
Yeah. So, and then you said Jesper Boqvist as your 1st star. So I'll go with my 1st star. Sergei Bobrovsky for this one. Just one more goal against for him. Unfortunately does not get the shutout, but the Panthers on that PK, we saw Logan Cooley just sneak behind the Panthers there after he got it back low to high and just beat Sergei Bobrovsky top shelf there on the short side for him. But just the fact that Sergei Bobrovsky was able to just be steady in the net, and also for just once again, like you said, stop that breakaway from Lawson Krause there for the Utah Hockey Club for them, and just continuing to just give the Panthers a chance. And the fact that it was 1-0 going into that third period, we're seeing good Bob during this stretch. Moment where we thought the game was won. For me, it was when the second period ended. We know the Panthers' record after 2 periods and how it goes back all the way to March of 2023 for them. 17 shots against, but we spoke about the lack of quality there. So that was my moment. When I saw 2 periods and 40 minutes gone, I'm like, okay, the Panthers just got to continue playing, to continue to stick to who they are.
As confident as I get with the Panthers heading into the third period with a lead, and obviously for good reason, when it's only a 1-goal lead, I'm still not ready to say, yep, I know it's over. It's game over, because a 1-goal game is a 1-goal game and you're on the road.
True.
So all it takes is one tying goal to somehow get in. And then, we could be heading to overtime here. It's 3-on-3, and who knows what's going to happen in a 3-on-3 or a shootout, right? When Boqvist scored the goal. That to me is why he is my number one star. When he scores the goal to make it 2-0, it's over. When was, I'm totally going to jinx it now, but when was the last time they blew a 2-goal lead in the third period?
It's been a bit.
It's been a while. Like, I really can't remember. I'm sure it happened last season at some point. And correct me if I'm wrong. Has it happened this season?
It happened in Philadelphia.
And they ended up coming back and winning. That's my point.
And they come back.
So even when they have blown a lead, they still end up winning the game anyway.
Yeah.
So the way I look at it is, as soon as the Panthers go up 2 goals in the third, that means that they have to let up 3 in order to lose.
Yeah.
They're not going to let up 3. This game's over. I was like, yeah, it's over. I might as well not watch the final 13 minutes, but you know what? I did anyway.
Yeah, and for the Cats there, just just when it comes to just knowing that we going into this game, Utah and just once again being on an upward trajectory. Crazy to think that their plan for trying to get their new arena at the time that they were Arizona, this was the year that they were, supposed to actually be fighting if they were still in that market. But now we're seeing it just in a different place for them. And they gave they made it a good challenge for the Panthers, but championship resume for the Panthers really truly made a difference when you versus going against the kids still trying to find their way and trying to be more of a professional every single day. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we are going to discuss the news being official. The Panthers will be hosting the 2026 Winter Classic, and we are going to give our thoughts on that and more, on the date and the opponent, next on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same game parlays, and so much more. So visit the website at FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Third and final segment here on this Thursday, January 9th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Thursday. Here once again with Jackson Holzer, South Florida native, Panther fan, and host of Locked On Syracuse, and you'll occasionally hear him on Locked On ACC as well there. So Jackson, I've been talking about this for weeks. I've just been waiting for it to be official so we could stop speculating so much about when it's going to be. We knew the where. We and of course wondering the opponent as well for the Panthers. But during the day, the NHL and the Panthers announced that the Cats will be hosting the 2026 Winter Classic at Lone Depot Park on January 2nd, 2026, against the New York Rangers, the home of the Miami Marlins. And also in that same announcement, they announced that the Tampa Bay Lightning will be hosting a Stadium Series game against the Boston Bruins on February 1st from Raymond James Stadium. And some fans might wonder, might have thought of why not a Battle of Florida? But I think the fact that there's no Battle of Florida might have come more from the Tampa Bay side of things, because they already had a outdoor game just a few years ago in Nashville. And if they were to have another one while having 3 cups on their resume and 2 in the last 5 years, I'm sure that was a talking point to the NHL offices saying, why are we going on the road multiple times? Can we at least try this? And the NHL is not going to give back-to-back outdoor games. They don't even do that for original 6 teams. They'll put a little bit of a gap there for that. So not the Battle of Florida, but the Panthers will host the New York Rangers. It comes in the timing of their yearly trip to South Florida during this time of year. So I think I would have preferred the Bruins based on the recent history of the rivalry, but this is a next best thing for this outdoor game. I want to get your thoughts here.
So I'll start with the opponent. First of all, it's amazing. It's unbelievable that both Florida teams are getting home outdoor games. We're in the world of we're in the year of 2025, and this will take place in 2026. If we can land people on the moon, I'm pretty sure they can figure out how to have these games and the ice be fine. So I'm not really worried about it. It's just a reward for both these teams for actually being good for so long and being rewarded by being in an outdoor game. I'll start with the opponent, which is the New York Rangers. 100% agree. 100%. I originally was like, why not the Tampa Bay Lightning? But then I kind of think from a marketing standpoint and a business standpoint, it's got to be the Rangers. I don't think, in order for it to truly get a lot of eyeballs on it, I don't think it can just be the uniqueness of Florida versus Tampa. I think you need Florida versus that traditional northern team, an original 6 like the New York Rangers. And I was hoping it was going to be the Rangers. This is when they always come to Florida in like December, early January. So to your point, it falls right in line. The other candidates were the Bruins, which would have made a lot of sense as well. I would have been totally fine with that. Toronto. I was thinking, I was like, I didn't love the Toronto idea. Really? I didn't love that. Montreal, forget it. Detroit, no. So really, it was the Rangers. It was the Rangers or the Bruins. And my preference was the Rangers. So I like the Rangers. As far as the date, you said it's January 2nd, correct?
On a Friday.
On a Friday, good. As someone who follows college sports, it's not going to interfere with the college football playoff. My only thing is, I don't understand the NHL with constantly moving the date of the Winter Classic. They keep changing the date of it. When was it this year? December 30th?
31st.
December 31st, right.
And that was the lowest rated Winter Classic. But also maybe that might have to do with the fact that NBC is a national affiliate, while TNT, you have to buy a cable package for it. So that's maybe the reason why for a bit of a dip.
People will say that they don't want to have it on New Year's because you don't want to compete with the college football playoff. I understand that. They didn't have it on January 1st this year, or I guess in 2024, and it didn't work. And they had Chicago in there. And I think it's because, Armando, they keep switching the dates up on us. I did not know I am a diehard hockey fan. I did not know when the Winter Classic was this year. And then when I finally found out about the Winter Classic, I looked at the opponents and I said, forget it. So I didn't even watch. But my point is, with the NHL, at least be consistent. Yeah. Just pick a date. Pick a date that you want in late December, early January, and say, this is when the Winter Classic is going to be. And we're going to do it every year. That way, every single hockey fan knows exactly when it's going to happen.
Very fair. Very fair. Let's say let's say that it's January 2nd or 3rd consistently, and they will do what they can to avoid with the college football playoff now for the NHL. When you think about the situationally for the Panthers, the fact that it's on a Friday, okay, some places of employment might have people return on that Friday.
Probably not.
This is a great opportunity for everyone to use their PTO if they so choose. So going into a weekend on a Friday, not interfering with the college football playoff, I think this is going to be well attended. First of all, because you're going to have some help with the snowbirds, and the fact that you're not where the average fan who's staying up all night on New Year's, they have a full day to recover to still go to an event like this as well. I mean, yes, the Orange Bowl is in 2025-26 is the day before. So a lot of events going on in just a 2-day span in South Florida. But still, that is an opportunity for the fans to still at least get prepared for it. I mean, I know I'll be prepared for months. You'll be prepared for months for this game. But I think just the placement as far as this year, and hopefully this is the step in the right direction for it to be on a certain date, because we love the sport, but we can also be honest with ourselves about where it stands as far as the others.
Yeah, I would even go a step further beyond just Winter Classic. I mean, we just saw the NFL take over Christmas, right? And that's typically been the NBA's day. And we know that the NHL stays away from Christmas.
3 days, too.
Yeah. Hey, NHL, let's start putting some games on Christmas. If the NBA is already going to compete with the NBA traditionally owned Christmas. Okay. I get we're getting off kind of the topic of Winter Classic since we're talking about dates and times and trying to grow the game here. Hello, the NFL is already stepping over Christmas. What's the NBA going to do? Are they just going to roll over and concede the day, or are they just going to go with their games anyway? And I'm going to sit here and tell you, I think if you're the NHL, you should schedule some games on Christmas. I also think you should schedule games around Thanksgiving time as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there should be more of a concerted effort to get games on holidays, because that's when everyone's off anyway. Yeah. And if you can't be too petrified of football, because I got news for you. The people who watch hockey for the most part,
they'll find a way.
They're going to watch hockey if they really watch hockey. And B, football is always going to win anyway. Football is going to win the NBA. They're going to beat the NHL. They're going to beat everything, right? So at some point, you just got to draw the line in the sand and say, like, you know what? They're two completely different audiences. And the reality is that football just has a bigger audience. So I think that the Winter Classic needs to be on the same day every single year so that you can build familiarity. And I also think the NHL going forward, they need to start scheduling more games during these holidays. Get some games on Christmas. Get some games on Thanksgiving. I don't care about the NFL. And I'm a big NFL fan. I don't care.
I will say, maybe for Thanksgiving you can have the Canadian teams play on that for
sure.
So maybe that could be something that would help, because that's a regular work day for them. So that's part of it. Maybe do an outdoor game there in that part, the Heritage Classic. Why
not?
Why not for them? So that's another thing, just about knowing, okay, this is we know Boxing Day. What is that day on the hockey calendar? World Juniors. So for the fans who, especially in this region, who now sees the Stanley Cup champion, 5 straight trips to the postseason, 6 about to be 6, they're now starting to get into the groove of when things fall on the sports calendar for that. And I think having the Winter Classic on one day, and it being constant, it's not going to have people just randomly Googling, like you told me earlier, about this year's Winter Classic.
And not only that, with the Winter Classic, the other mistake that they made is they didn't make it a standalone game. The Panther, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't the Panthers play on the same day this year as the Winter Classic?
No, they played the day before. But
Okay, but there were 2 other games during the Winter Classic. They
Mhm.
weren't at the same times, but there were 2 other games that were played on that day. I'm sorry, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Isn't that the point, the allure of the Winter Classic, that it's
Yeah.
gonna be the only game?
Mhm.
I'm sorry, what? Like,
And here's the thing, New Year's Day, there's only one game in the NHL, and that was New
that's what
Jersey
I thought the
Devils.
Winter Classic was going
Yeah,
to be.
it was New Jersey Devils, Los Angeles Kings, and it was on NHL Network.
But wait a minute,
Oh,
it makes no sense to me. Hold on. So you have a game on January 1st that's not the Winter Classic, and you're gonna go up against the New Year's Six bowls anyway of the college football. Well, you might as well just make that the Winter Classic.
mhm. So
What are we doing here?
so, yeah. But the great thing is for the Panthers is they are getting their game. We know when it is. It's going to be towards the weekend, which means it'll be highly attended. And that for the Panthers, they it feels like that this as a franchise, them. I know they won the Stanley Cup, but this really truly feels like they have arrived. And even Gary Bettman, I'll say the last quote before we get out of here. Quote, Stanley Cups, string of sellouts, and exponential growth of youth and high school hockey throughout the state have demonstrated that Florida is a hockey hotbed. NHL outdoor games in the Sunshine State never let it be said that our league isn't willing to accept a challenge. So I'm very excited for. Can't wait for that. So, Jackson, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Tell everybody where they can follow you online, my friend.
Sure. My Twitter account, my personal Twitter account. If you're watching on YouTube, you can already see it. But in case you're listening, wherever you get your podcast, it's at Jackson H_52. That's my personal Twitter. And of course, I'm the host of Locked On Syracuse. And if you happen to be a Syracuse fan watching or listening to this podcast, you can follow my social at LO_Syracuse on Twitter.
Awesome, Jackson. Thank you so much and see you soon, my friend.
See you soon, Armando. Thank you for having me.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on Locked On NHL Network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Jackson Holzer, and you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.